Hi, everybody. This is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of May 2019. So this is the Sun and Rising Sign horoscope for Aries. Well, the first 10 days of the month are incredibly intense for everybody, and you'll see why shortly. I'm going to move through a lot of transits that are happening in the first 10 days of May. I warn you, it's a little overwhelming to even just look at it. Here's what's happening. May 1st to May 3rd, Mercury is going to make squares to Saturn, the South Node, and Pluto, while trining Jupiter in your ninth house, and while making a sextile with mutual reception to Mars and Gemini in your third house. That's all happening in 3 days, the first 3-4 days of the month, basically. So what does that mean? Well, the potential for some difficult decisions at work are at play. The 10th house is featured here. That's your career house, or house of that really defines your actions out in the world. With Saturn and Pluto just having turned retrograde in your 10th house, it's possible that there's some kind of restructuring or deeper, more intense energy at play in your career right now, or some kind of revising or transformation that's happening in your life on the whole, your life course, and what you're doing with your life in the kind of the big picture sense, that the trajectory that your life is on. Potentially going through some really big changes right now with Pluto, South Node, and Saturn in your 10th house of career. Mercury in the first house with mutual reception to Mars and Gemini is it's a very fiery, intellectual, mental kind of energy. Really good time for strategizing, for making hard executive decisions, for defining your commitments, things like that. For also potentially having to put your beliefs into action, to find teachers or paths of learning or study that may be very helpful for you right now. So I like this as an early month as a potential for a lot of learning and mental or intellectual stimulation or growth that's very positive. If you're traveling, I think that it could be a very interesting and fruitful time for travel. But also I feel like there's really kind of some intense mental energy going on. You want to be careful of being too severe, rigid, or strict in your thinking. It's a good time to define commitments, to make executive decisions, but also potentially you could be a little too severe or uptight in your thinking. Too much principle and not enough bend or give would be a mistake right now, I think. So that sort of defines the first couple of days of your month. You can see that coming through the first, like I said, like basically May 1st to May 3rd. And then on May 4th, immediately we also see a new moon in Taurus in your second house. That's really putting an emphasis on money and issues around finances, expenditures, and income in the moon cycle to come. So the new moon sort of planting a seed of development and growth around resources and money. If you employ people like counselors or lawyers, for example, sometimes people that you pay or that are close resources to you could be really important. You want to be careful in the second part of the month, around May 15th and 16th. Venus will enter your second house. Things can get a little indulgent. Venus in the second is prone towards the high living. So later in the month, you might want to be careful about overspending. But in general, this is a moon cycle that I think will be very positive for Aries rising or Aries sun with regard to money or finances this month. Then when you move on, when you get to like May 7th and 8th, it's really pretty dynamic. Again, what's happening right around the 7th and 8th, 5th and 6th as well. You got, actually, let's just say the 5th to 8th. You have Mars in Gemini opposing Jupiter in Sagittarius from your 3rd to 9th house. Again, that has a feeling to me of it's very mental, intellectual, philosophical, even spiritual, but it's very, there's some bravado. It has a more combative feeling. You might be engaging in argumentation or debate, or really analyzing or breaking down your belief structures, changing perceptions, duties, responsibilities, and obligations that you have in life, ethically, morally, to family, to work, or just the different kinds of responsibilities and how you prioritize those things according to your values and beliefs, I think will be in the spotlight around this time, and maybe some tension or conflicting ideas about how things should be done. You're going to go right from there, from the 7th to the 8th, into a Mercury conjunction with Uranus in the second house. That has the potential to be a little disruptive, or a little bit of, some eccentric energy around money or finances around the 7th or 8th, but also some insight and flashes of innovation or insight or creativity related to money or business. Mercury Uranus is oftentimes very inventive. So I like the potential for a little bit of a breakthrough or some kind of positive development, or even some new helpful technology that you find around the 7th and 8th when Mercury conjoins Uranus. Now, if you can believe that we're only 8 days into the month, right? This is a lot. May 6th to the 10th, as if this isn't enough, Venus will then get involved between the 6th and the 10th to squares to Saturn, the south node, and Pluto, again in your 10th house. So now we're talking about the ruler of your house of marriage and relationships, Venus, in your first house, in her detriment, working through squares to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in your 10th. I think this is going to have to do with hard choices that you're having to make that are both personal and relational. And there's Saturn and Pluto in the 10th house are exacting a toll on people with Aries Sun, Aries rising right now. It's a change of life focus and life direction. You're wanting to restructure things. You're wanting to get more serious about things. It's time to let go of something that's not working. It's a heavier feeling with Saturn, Pluto up there. Venus, love, relationships, friendship, thinking about your health, thinking about self-care in the first house. She's getting into the mix of the squares, while also trining Jupiter in the 9th house, connecting with your higher beliefs, with the desire to travel or learn or study or find teachers. So that Venus-Jupiter feels really nice. I mean, it feels like expansion, growth, happiness, but it's hitting all of these really intense squares to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in the 10th. So I think, again, hard decisions come to mind, or challenging events in relationships where you have to figure out what you're prioritizing. So at any rate, so that takes us all the way through the 10th. Now, I like May 10th to the 15th a lot better. During that time, you can see you go through the 10th through the 15th. The sun is going to go through trines to Saturn, the south node, and Pluto. This on May 14th will actually create a grand Earth trine with the moon moving through Virgo. So, this is a grand Earth trine, very productive, focused on work, business, money, finances. I think it's going to be a very productive period for Aries people. But again, you are thinking about a restructuring, a revising, some kind of heavier transformation born of necessity that's taking place in your 10th house right now, with both Saturn and Pluto just turning retrograde. Now, on the 16th, your ruling planet Mars is going to enter the sign of Cancer. So you can see that that's taking place right here. Whoops, actually, we bumped into Taurus rising, didn't we? Change this back an hour. There we go. So you see that Mars is going to enter Cancer on the 16th and move into your 4th house of home, family, and roots. Mars is now in its fall. This is a more difficult moment that may relate to living situation, parents, family, domestic matters, your roots and what supports you. This is a more vulnerable, potentially painful moment, and you have a little bit of a season of this ahead, as Mars will be in Cancer, all the way into June. So a full moon on the 18th will land in Scorpio, which is also Mars ruled. And we can see that right here. So here's your, here we go. Here is your full moon in Scorpio. That's putting tension between the 8th and 2nd houses. Typically, that kind of tension, you'll see issues around money, finances, loans, expenditures, debt in the spotlight. Moon is in its fall in Scorpio in the 8th house, also house of death and rebirth. I think it's probably going to have something to do with home and family, maybe some unexpected financial challenges or changes that come up, or trying to free yourself of some kind of burden, and it may be a little painful in the process. This is a heavier emotional time around the full moon for Aries. And my guess is that it will involve both family matters and financial matters at once, but please let me know how it goes. Then you're going on the 23rd. You see Mars in Cancer, making a square to Chiron in Aries from the 4th to the 1st house. Again, a moment of healing and wisdom around home family relationships, the feeling of wounding, pain, and learning that's relative to issues of home, family, parents. Again, looks like the positive is that Chiron often brings a deeper understanding and healing to us. So things may be a little bit more challenging, full moon onward, but the potential for some enlightenment or healing is there as well with Chiron in the mix. So then finally on the 29th to the 30th, as I told you, the end of the month slows down quite a bit. From 29th to 30th, you see Mercury opposing Jupiter and making a square to Neptune. I like this as a time of very clearly differentiating your values and ideas, evaluating what you should or shouldn't consider a friend, an ally, a positive resource, a healthy place or person to be dependent upon versus an unhealthy one. I also like this as a time of really clarifying financial philosophy or just lifestyle changes based on philosophical changes, spending money on learning or education, and the importance of friends and allies. Those are all things that come to mind around that transit at the end of the month. So that's what I've got for you, Aries. I hope that this was interesting. Oops, sorry. Back that up a second. I just read the wrong one there. So the end of the month, you can see there it is. It's between 3, 9, and 12. And so this one, I was reading for my Tauruses. So go back to my notes here. So for the last one with Mercury and Gemini, let me redo that one. So Mercury and Gemini in the 3rd, opposite. Again, it's very philosophical across the 3rd and the 9th house. And then what you're looking at with Neptune in the 12th house really has to do with kind of examining whether your beliefs are contributing to like, do I have limiting beliefs right now? Or do I have beliefs that are really setting me free? Do I have inherent beliefs, unconscious, unexamined, that are a part of my own self-undoing, 12th house Neptune? Or am I finding a faith that is positive and can carry me through different kinds of doubts that I have, and a tendency to be overly analytical or overly rational about things when maybe a deeper level of trust is necessary? So let's see, there we go. So, the other thing that can come up is, again, a feeling of 3rd house often brings certain kinds of obligations with it that are more a part of our immediate environment, family, neighborhood, brothers, sisters. 9th house, more like our larger philosophical commitments. There may be some kind of ideological or philosophical tension during this time. And with Neptune in the 12th house, what you're really looking at is what kind of sacrifice of my time, energy, and life is worthwhile and what isn't. So because there is some ways in which with Neptune in the 12th right now, you're going to see certain things that I believe and the way that what's on my mind, or the way that I spend my time and the things that I give my energy to, some of them are self-destructive and some of them are actually very healing and beneficial. So you're, kind of examining the way that beliefs shape actions and in turn lead to either health or suffering. That's kind of an introspective moment. So sorry for messing you up with my Tauruses there for a moment. Okay, so that's what I've got for you. I hope you have a great month of May, and I look forward to talking to you again in June. Take care. Bye.